Imagine a country designed like a perfect machine. Every cog in place, every citizen accounted for. There is no chaos, no selfishness, and no feelings. This was the dream, a collective so unified that no one stood above the rest. There was no ego, no excess, just harmony. But something vital was missing from this grand design. Empathy, judgment, and human initiative were all absent. Instead, the system ran on fear, silence, and unwavering loyalty. In the Soviet Union, utopia came with blueprints. It was meant to be a society of equals. But in practice, it became a society of shadows. Crimes went unreported and truths went unspoken. Not because people didn't notice, but because speaking up could make you the next target. Reporting a neighbor might protect you, or it might mark you as suspicious. Saying the wrong thing could mean losing your job, your home, or your freedom. Silence became the safest form of survival. People stopped acting, not because they didn't care, but because they knew better than to be seen caring. Initiative was dangerous. Stepping forward meant stepping out of line, and in tightly controlled systems, standing out drew suspicion. Even a well-intended action could be interpreted as disloyalty or defiance. Conscience was subversive. Moral judgment required personal responsibility, and that was incompatible with a system that demanded obedience. To act on your conscience was to question the collective narrative, and questioning was a threat. When everyone is responsible for everyone, no one dares to act alone. Let's rewind further. Nazi Germany was not merely a military machine. It was a society built on emotional loyalty, or at least the performance of it. Citizens were expected to do more than follow laws. They had to demonstrate ideological purity, publicly and constantly. This meant attending mass rallies, joining party organizations, and praising the regime in daily conversation. It also meant teaching children to report dissent. Even small gestures like failing to salute, showing hesitation during national anthems, or not denouncing a neighbor could be seen as signs of disloyalty. Compliance wasn't enough. Enthusiasm was required. From youth groups to neighborhood watches, the state didn't just monitor actions, it demanded hearts. Loyalty wasn't just political, it was personal. When systems seek control over feeling itself, the cost is unbearable. Once emotions are dictated from above, genuine connection disappears. Fear replaces trust. Grief becomes dangerous. Even love is politicized. People learn to fake joy, suppress doubt, and mistrust their own instincts. Over time, a society that cannot feel cannot care, and without care, it cannot heal. Back in the USSR, a bitter joke circulated: "We pretend to work, and they pretend to pay us." This was more than sarcasm. It was survival logic. In systems that don't reward honesty or action, pretending becomes the safest skill. Workplaces decayed, institutions hollowed out. Nobody wanted to be the one who tried too hard, because trying hard meant standing out. And standing out meant risk. What happens when you live in a system that doesn't feel? You begin to wonder if you should stop feeling too. Psychologists call it moral numbing, learned helplessness, emotional withdrawal. But we don't need the diagnostic manual to recognize the symptoms. Indifference, exhaustion, disbelief in change. Apathy becomes armor. The system wins. These aren't just stories from history books. Echoes of past oppression can still be found in modern systems. We need to ask ourselves where we've rebranded obedience as loyalty and moral compromise as teamwork. Which institutions today still reward conformity over honesty? Do we encourage people to disagree with dignity or only to comply efficiently? Is initiative a liability in systems that prize smooth functioning over moral friction? Do some of our democratic spaces feel procedurally hollow? When does participation become synonymous with paperwork and not presence? Which parts of the systems we live in don't feel? And when are we encouraged, subtly or directly, not to feel either? Carl Jung once warned, "The state has no conscience, only men have." So what happens when we surrender our conscience to the collective? We become tools, not citizens, but conscience can be restored through design, through education, through initiative. Because when a single match is struck in the dark, it is no longer dark.